Let's talk about icons. Well, when we're talking about App Store optimization, we're optimizing for either of two things. One is to engage the user and convince him to download the app, and the other is to enable the user to find the app, right? So one has to be very appealing and the other one has to be very strategic. The icon falls in the first category, so it will not directly move the app up the rankings, but it will potentially attract a user that scrolls past your app and he or she will stop to have a look, which could end up in the user downloading the app and, as a consequence, the app moving up the rankings. But now, the icon is really important because it is the first thing people see when they're scrolling through the apps. So if it catches their eye, they will stop and have a look. So what to do with the icon? Well, first of all, don't use words. All right, there are a few apps out there that have words like free or awesome or even the title of the app. So don't do that. You have the app name for that. Your icon should be something simple but easy to understand. Don't use a logo if the logo has the company name either. So for example, Nike would be okay, but Century 21, I would not recommend it. So for example, here are some examples of good icons and some bad icons I took from my phone as a screenshot. Right, so as you can see here, the first 6 icons, they all have words on them. These are not very good icons. I probably wouldn't recommend you follow what they say. For example, here there's Century 21, it's a bit hard to read. This one says casino. Then this one says spotted. Oh, that's a bit hard to spot. Then you have Gumtree, which is a very popular website here in Australia. Then there's Yelp. And then this one is Toyota. It's actually Toyota Finance, but there's not a chance you can read what it says in there. So yeah, like as you can see, it's very hard to read these icons and they are just very forgettable, right? Like if I would open these, I'm not gonna remember these ones. They're a mess. They have so much stuff going on that it doesn't look good, and it really doesn't catch my eye because they're hard to read. And you know, you want to focus on making the icon catch your eye or catch the user's eye instead of making it harder for the user. Next up, the other 2 icons that we have here, these ones are for trivia apps. Now, these ones, they also have very small images, but it's actually quite popular for trivia apps to have icons such as this one. It's not very rare, right? So they can be divided in 4. It's common for them to be divided into quarters. And yeah, they usually are different colors and they have images that have to do with what you will have in the trivia or in the app. For example, this one is from Harry Potter. You have the H, the P, and yeah, you have a wand and you have a hat. Then this one is from Skylanders. I think, actually, I'm not sure. I think that's a show, but I'm not entirely sure. But anyway, yeah, so if you're doing trivia apps and you want to divide in quarters, it's actually common. So it looks good. Having words in these icons, it's not too bad. There are a lot of trivia apps that do it. As long as you have a word that is styled to look like what you have in the app, right? So the app is about filling in words. So if you have a word that is styled like that, in here, a short word, then it keeps the theme of the app and it can actually help. But honestly, I probably would recommend that if you go with trivia apps, you just stick to this. And these icons here, these are pretty much what we're looking for, right? So they're quite simple. And I know that these are very big names, so I guess they can get away with it. For example, Nike, I mean, it's recognized everywhere in the world, so they can just get away with putting the little tick. But, you know, you have to aim for something simple like this because it's so much easier to remember. Like, if I'm just thinking about Vine, for example, I'm just gonna remember this. It's just so easy to remember. If I'm thinking of Spot It, you know, I'm not gonna remember this entire icon. It's very complicated, and so just keeping it simple makes it a lot easier for the users and for your users to remember it. And you don't even need to be a huge name or a huge brand name to do it. For example, this one is Code School. It's a relatively big school for coding, but it's not very popular. But it's a very simple icon, and as soon as you open the app, it makes perfect sense, and you will remember it straight away. Like after I used the app, I just remember the icon straight away next time I needed it because it just blended with the theme very well, right? So that's pretty much what you want to aim for. Another important thing is that you shouldn't use any gloss or fade your apps out. Alright, like some apps gloss their icons for some reason. It happens mainly in the App Store, which only helps to decrease visibility. Right? Like you want vibrant, eye-catching colors. If you have a look in here, these icons, they're faded at the top, and it only makes them less visible. You don't have a lot of room to work with in the first place because the icon is quite small. So why would you just reduce it, and it just makes it look even smaller? For example, this one it says free, so it's even worse. This one has some letters at the top and they are faded, so it's even harder to see. This one I can see that it also has some words, and this one as well, and they're all faded. It really doesn't look very well. These ones here, as you can see, they're vibrant colors, they catch your eye, they're shiny. I know this one has a word, so it's not perfect, but yeah, you're looking for something like more on this side kind of thing, bright colors, just catch the user's eye, catch his or her attention. You can also have a look at the color wheel. Try to use complementary colors at full saturation. Now, complementary colors are the ones that are opposite to each other, like for example, this yellow and this purple, this blue and this orange, this green and this red. When you combine complementary colors, they jump out and they just catch people's eyes. So that's very good to use them in combination. You could also use a combination of 3 colors that are evenly spaced along the color wheel. What do I mean by that? Well, for example, you can use this yellow, then you skip 3 and then you use this red, then you skip 3 and you use this blue, and then you skip 3 and you go back to the yellow. So if you use a combination of these 3 colors, it's gonna catch people's eyes as well. And there are many other combinations. I will give you guys an article in case you're interested in reading and learning more about basic color schemes. Using gradients is also fine, as long as they're in the background and have shades of the same colors. So like, don't have a gradient that goes from blue to orange. Have one that goes from light blue to a slightly darker blue, for example. Now that being said, it also depends on the type of icon whether you should use gradients or not. They're not required. Trivia apps, for example, don't tend to have gradients, just vibrant colors.